Hi, it's Jessie. I'm back again, and I'm going to do a part 2 of Iniquity and the Duty to Warn. And remember, iniquity is a violation of the right or duty that man is under obligation to do. And it sounds, I don't know if you're getting a clear picture of what iniquity means by the definition. It's clear for me because I know what iniquity is. I've been through it, when God wants to teach you something, he walks you through the pages of the Bible, right? Um, Stuff is real, right? And for those people who aren't biblical, I would say that within America, we have our Constitution, right? But in other nations, they call us the land of the covenant. The land of the covenant, the land of the law, you know. Um, and within our covenant, um, it prescribes a vision for the nation, you know. It sets forth our identity as a people. It says that we are free. It gives us this declaration, and it says that man has a right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. So when we say iniquity, we're saying that someone is violating someone's right to life. We're saying that they are defrauding them. They are defrauding them of life. They are defrauding them of liberty. And they are defrauding them of their right to pursue happiness in life. And these rights are given unless you're a criminal. They are a guarantee unless you're a criminal. You could, of course, file a suit unless you're a criminal. And then even if you're a criminal, you still have rights because the accused have rights. And they let you know that as soon as they arrest you. They read you this Miranda warning that it lets you know that anything you say or do can be used against you, that you have the right to remain silent, right? So you have the right to remain silent when you're facing accusations. You have the right to not answer them because sometimes when you answer their questions, they're just looking for something to pin on you. And they lock in their case long before they ever charge you based on the things that you say. And they run on crumbs, and they draw a narrative that makes no sense. And I can say this with conviction, not because I've been arrested, but because I've seen what they have done to my life without arresting me. And I understand that the accused have rights, but the accused only has rights once they've been arrested. They have to be charged within so long, and if they're not charged, they have to be released, right? I think that's why they've spent 20 years pursuing me, halting me through the people around me, closing doors of opportunity for me by slandering my name, by working through people. And I completely understand why David would cry out and say that he had many enemies without cause, because he offered people friendship. And these people looked at whoever he greeted and they went to them and they enlisted them in the scheme against David's life. They told them some stories, maybe. They told them some stories that would have David condemned by these people, so that everywhere David went, he was not free. They stripped away his garments, they only talked about him and not to him, they didn't let him attain anything in life, and he had no choice but to lay there with his bones coming out of joint. He had no choice but to do that because he was hedged in by someone spouting off accusations. And you can say that I'm wrong, but I've been where David was. And like I said, When God wants to teach you something, He walks you through it. I felt my bones out of joint. I felt this pain where I couldn't walk. I felt the pain where my mind wouldn't work for me, where my words wouldn't come together, where I lost form, you know. I felt the pain that David felt. And so I know what he went through because God walked me through it. You understand? And it is the pain of iniquity that David could not overcome because David didn't realize that all these people who were coming against him were actually sent. You know, when we read through the other prophets in the Bible, we see that they're crying out iniquity. People are working iniquity. And they're crying out to God because they can't solve the problem for themselves, you know. In Ezekiel, when we come to Ezekiel, we find God has Ezekiel, puppies. We find that God has Ezekiel take on the sins of the people to um, eat food that is prepared with human excrement, but no, he wouldn't do that, with like cow dung or something to that effect, right? That he was to lay on his side and bear the sins, you know, so that he could feel the pain of the sin of the people to the point where he had enough. Because this is the point of suffering for God, is that you cast off the yoke of affliction. No, this is enough. This is enough. And when you've had enough, you begin to speak and you want to solve the problem of iniquity. When you understand that the world has been struggling with this for thousands of years, this is not my problem. This is a global problem. This is a problem of heaven. This is a problem of God and everyone that He has ever sent to deal with the iniquity in the world. And if we can't get it right, you see, He told Ezekiel that you have a duty to warn them. They're rebellious and they're not going to listen. But if you don't warn them, their blood is on your hands, you know. So when we say criminals get a Miranda warning, they get a warning that they're walking into danger because they're under arrest and these people want to take their life. They get a warning. There is a duty to warn when you're going to take someone's life. And if you don't give that warning, it is murder. The accused have rights. So Ezekiel is saying, or what God is saying to Ezekiel, is that you have to warn the people that the way that they're walking is going to bring them into death. You know, you have to warn them. You know, we can only do evil for so long. You know, evil can only grow so big before it swallows up the world. You know, before you can't walk out in the street and greet your neighbor because you don't know if you roll a soccer ball in their driveway, they're going to shoot you. You know, you can't you can't accidentally ring someone's doorbell looking for your little sister because they might shoot you. You know, the workings of iniquity can only go so far. Like you can say, no one will know, no one will find out, but the proof is in the pudding. You know, the proof that iniquity is ruling the world is in the world. You cannot trust your neighbor for anything, and they look for any excuse to cut you down, to justify violence, you know. It's wrong. It's wrong. And we don't realize that the way back is not just these social programs, right? The way back is a return to covenant, a return to law. It's a return to understanding, not psychology. Not psychology. Psychology has its problems. You see, people think Freud was the father of psychology, but they're wrong. It was actually Aristotle who was the father of psychology. And if we look at these dictatorships throughout history, these monsters throughout history, there were a few things they were obsessed with. They were obsessed with psychology and the occult. You know, this is the way that evil rises through power, because psychology doesn't need something to be true. It only needs someone to believe it. So it lies to you. It lies to you, and you think you're better because they tell you you're doing great. It's a lie from the pit of hell. Psychology will not make you better. And I know people are not going to like me to say that, but I'm sorry, but psychology did not make me better. Not when I was a patient, not when I was sold into slavery by my counselor, not when they ruined my reputation because they had to protect the integrity of the institution, not when they tried to drive me out of my mind when I had a little bitty baby and they were banging on my window 24/7, for weeks on end before I moved out of my home. Psychology is a dirty trick. And they could say, oh, I had a violation of trust. No, it was more than a violation of trust. A violation of trust was what the man did in the beginning. A failure of the system is when I understand what they did back then, when I go for my own master's and learn through the ethics course that you must protect the integrity of the institution. And sometimes the people that you wrong have to die for you so that the institution can be preserved. And when you understand that the way that the people die for the institution to be preserved is the harassment, is the gaslighting, is the lies. When you understand that, then you look at these people and you understand that you are not my help and you're not anybody else's help either. Everything you do is a lie, So, but I digress, They work iniquity. That's my problem with them, is they work iniquity, and they cause so much problems. So much problems. They point the fingers in the wrong direction, They claim to understand all these problems, but they only make the problems bigger. And they claim to be the solution, but they have no solution. They really can't deal with the problems that they've created, They like to blame, to offer up a sacrifice and blame the problems in the world on the mother, They like to blame the problems in the world on, bad actors here and there. But the problems that we physically see in the world are really a rebellion against a system, because there is no law in place. The system is lawless. The system says, do what I want you to, because I said so. And if you don't, we will harass you. We will stalk you. We will cut you off from your neighbors, from your own family. We will divide your house against you because we can, because we're manipulative bastards, It's not a system that I want to depend on. But a return to the law, a return to understanding that, hey, no, I'm not going to serve you. I'm not going to go and beat down this young 20-year-old mother's window who's all by herself with a tiny little baby, and you got people beating on her window all night long. I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to scare her out of her life and try to drive her crazy. I'm not going to do that to her, because that's wrong. Not because you said you'll show me some favor, because you said you'll give me some kind of preferential treatment, because you told me that she ruined that counselor's life, because you give me some story that provokes me into doing it. I'm not going to do it because that's wrong. There's a baby in that apartment. When you understand the way they work iniquity, they don't do it with their own hands. They pick up the people around you, the people that know you. They they weren't the counselors beating on my window. They were my fellow patients who didn't have access to my address, okay? When you understand that the system preserves itself by killing the ones it hurts, and because it kills the one it hurts, other people take the stuff and they're like, oh no, you're good. You're good. I licked your boots. You're good. You're good. You're good. You're good. And they give them credit that they should not have, because they're afraid of being assigned to this position that challenges the system and says, you've done wrong. Make it right. The accused is supposed to have rights. People are to have rights. There should be some explanation going on here. I shouldn't have to make a video 20 years later to say what I went through with my firstborn son, to say, that thing that we see as the solution, it's not really the solution, This thing, You know, 100 years ago, people were locked up and experimented on, and all these human rights groups rose up and kind of shut them down. And then they revamped their reputation, and then all of a sudden, these men who wanted divorces from their wives would just kindly stick them in institutions, you know? These parents who wanted to be rid of their children, or these children that wanted to be rid of their parents, would just start rumors and stick them in institutions. They're the problem. Let's put them here and lock them away where, you know, we can blame them for all our troubles, you know. I was that girl. Um, they're not the help. They're they're not. A return to the law is your best friend. It's the, if we had been educated for correctly, we would know that the law, the Torah, the Bible, it is a blueprint for life. It is a way of living that helps us not only maintain our own salvation, but also maintain peace with the neighbors around us, you know. Um, where Jesus says, if they smack your cheek, offer them the other one, you know. If they take your cloak, offer them more, you know. Where Jesus says that, he's saying that you got to choose to suffer for God, but you can't just do it like lay down like you're their doormat, you know. You got to do it like you have an obligation to care for your brother, you know. And they have to receive things with the understanding that they are being cared for. They're not robbing someone. And so when you give them your cloak, or when you turn the other cheek, you have to make it clear, because there's, you know, duty to warn. Let's explain our motives so it's not twisted, so we're not giving all our power up to the evil one. And let's take power back to God. And so if we're going to turn our cheeks, then we have to say, you know what? God said, turn my cheek. Will that be enough for you? Can we move past this now? Where you take your power back, and you're the one who says, no, if I don't wash your feet, they'll never be clean. You're not somebody's doormat, but you are washing someone's feet. You have to take the power back to the holy side, to God's side. And you have to use the law in order to be able to do it. Because if you're not strengthened by God, you're not strengthened with the Word of God, you know, then you are going to be just that doormat. Then you are just going to be, you know, that person that is despised and disregarded. People will hate you because they robbed you. You have to understand this. When Amnon, when he raped his sister, he hated her afterwards. He hated her because she was a reminder of his sin, because he could never be free from his guilt so long as the thought that she was there. She was alive. She was a witness, you know. He could never be free of his guilt because, like, you know, the victim's blood, it cries out against you. So understanding that when you hurt someone, you are going to hate them afterwards, you know. You're going to hate them afterwards. This is just the way that the world works. And if we want to change that, like Tamar did, don't do this to me. If you ask my father, he will give me to you as your bride, you know. That you have to look at how those who went before you spoke, you know, how they confronted evil, why they confronted it this way, you know. And understanding that a big reason why they did this is because you can't cut evil off. You can't cut it off. You know, it's also a part of you. You can't cut it off. But what you can do is pacify it. What you can do is turn it for good. You know, like God says, they meant it for evil, but God turned it for good, right? So though they're coming to you this way, and they want to wipe their feet all over you, you grab their feet and say, if I don't wash your feet, you'll never be clean, you know, and minister to them, you know, whatever it takes, whatever it takes to make you strong enough to be that person, and whatever it takes to quell the sinner in them, to make them not be the burglars, you know. It's crazy. It's crazy that I should have to talk like this, right? It's crazy that I should have to talk like this. But this is my response to the people that hurt me. This is my response, that my story, it started somewhere, and it never started with me being a drunk. It never started with me being a drug addict. I'm not a drunk. I've never been a drunk. I never did drugs in my life. I look this way because I've been used. I've been abused. I've been mistreated. I've been cut off from life. But you know what? I also look this way because I didn't give up. Because I kept fighting. Because I kept caring for my kids. Because I kept putting someone's needs before my own and saying, I'll die later, let me go make breakfast first, you know? Because I kept going and doing the things that I needed to do, you know? There's a way to survive evil, and it is most certainly not by picking up a sword and going out there and cutting down somebody as if you have the power to take their life, because you don't. You know, I hear God for myself, and when I thought of taking that power to take their life for myself, when I called the police, God said they'll die. And so I said no more. I remained silent. You know, I remained silent, and it took me so long to understand, you know, that God has love for everyone, that He has patience for those who have been broken, for those who have been misled, for those who we may classify as evil, that, you know, maybe they just have a lack of skills. Maybe they can't manage their anger. Maybe they need someone to help them to manage their anger. And in this place, you know, psychology may have some things to add, but by and large, the problems of the world is not a solution, you know? But recognizing where people have their shortcomings and developing a strategy to help them through those shortcomings, like creating opportunities for youth in Chicago, that's a great achievement by the mayor down there. I support that fully, you know. Um, there are things that we can do. We can offer other alternatives, you know. It's not a hopeless situation, is what I'm saying. Eventually the world's going to end. Yeah. But until it does, let us try to make it a little better. Let us try to make it a little more easier to get through. Let us try to be a little kinder to people, you know. Wise. Because it's what we can do, you know. When they've taken everything from us, you know, we could still get up and make breakfast. When our heart's broken and we feel condemned, we feel like we have many enemies without cause, we can still show kindness to the girl who rings us up at the grocery store, learn their name, and talk to them, you know. When the world just feels like it doesn't stop beating you down, they don't stop lying, you can make a YouTube video and tell people about the precepts of God and how, you know, it is necessary to follow these things to bring about salvation. Because if you don't, you know, you're going to fall into some trap where you think you're judged because you think you're saved. And then you go around and putting everybody down. You're the deacon in the church and you're firing the choir director. You're chasing out the other person because she's not Catholic enough for you. You know, you got to be careful of this petty nonsense. When you have the law, when you know what's right, when you know how to achieve what's right, you know that you don't have a right to cut people off, but you do have an obligation, a duty to warn, And if you see iniquity and you do not warn, you know, then blood is on your hands. The world would be a lot better place if we got to wash our hands. I know they had some things against washing hands, right? Sometimes we need to wash our hands of everything that we've been through, get all that nonsense off, and accept a better way, to walk through this blueprint for life, to walk through the law, to learn that these things are supposed to govern us, that they are our way out of iniquity. So that's all I got to say for today. I hope I changed somebody's life or helped somebody somewhere, if anybody's listening to me. All right, God bless. Have a good day.